ultimately schools across the world are not serving students well, nor are they serving society well. As a general blanket statement, right? There are exceptions, and we all know of great schools that are doing some very fascinating and kind of innovative things. Somehow, over the last several decades, we've gotten so engrossed in focusing on standardized tests and focusing on admissions to selective universities that the curriculum has narrowed in a way where we're focusing on some limited competencies for students, and we're not looking at the bigger picture. We're not looking at the kinds of skills and competencies and qualities that we want and need for our children as they move into a sustainable world, into a global economy. So, what are those skills? What are those competencies that we want to nurture and foster in our students? They're things like inquisitiveness and curiosity, and we want them to take risks. We want them to learn from their failures. We want them to be collaborative, not only with peers in their classroom, but with peers across the board from different cultures and with adults in kind of different sectors of society, right? We want them to be able to communicate articulately and clearly, and that's always an emphasis of schools, but not always in different realms. It's oftentimes in a classroom setting or writing an essay, right? We want young people who are inventive, who are innovative, who can create, right, and can find creative solutions to challenging problems, whether they're personal problems or whether they're societal problems. And so, all of this is not so well captured in our education system through the learning that tends to happen. We want students also who are self-starters, who take initiative, who are eager to pursue their passions and make a difference in the world. And where is that in our curriculum? Where do we focus on that? How do we measure that? Many of these things that I'm mentioning are really beyond measure. And that's what makes it complicated, because it's hard to build accountability systems around some things that are difficult to measure. But there are ways to do it, and there are some innovative approaches that I've been involved in, and that others in other schools, innovative schools around the world, have been involved in. So there are several obstacles that are very real, and we need to pay attention to. One is bureaucracy, institutionalization of the past, right? And sometimes those barriers are very hard to overcome. A second one, which we don't talk about so much and don't pay so much attention to, is organizational culture. And so I'm a big proponent of shifting organizational culture in a way that better enables the kinds of shifts in education that we want and need. Organizational cultures that support collaborative processes, that support cross-learning, cross-sharing among teachers, among educators, among others. Organizational cultures that welcome others in, right? Other voices, other partners, mentors, trainers, professionals of different stripes to work with teachers, with students in collaborative ways. Transparency. Oftentimes there are some, things are shrouded a bit and not so transparent. That's a shifting culture that we need to also promote. A culture that embraces risk-taking, a culture that embraces learning by making mistakes, learning by failure, and that makes that okay, and even encourages it, as long as there's a reflective practice to assure that learning does happen from the mistakes, from the trial and error that we will often encounter. A third obstacle, and it's associated with culture, is that we still tend to operate, we talk about student-centered schools and student-centered learning, but there are very few that actually practice it. How do we assure that all decisions are based on what's best for kids? And it's hard to do because we're all naturally, given the opportunity, we make decisions based on what's best for us personally. Without thinking about it, without being intentional, it happens by nature, right? And so we need to have some processes in place that encourage us every time there's a decision, every time we're creating something new, every time we're planning, to how we do this in a way that's more student-centered. It's a matter of letting go of the past and kind of what's been traditionally codified and institutionalized, and getting kind of out of that realm of a culture of compliance and into a realm of a culture of cross-sharing, cross-learning, collaborative approach where we hold ourselves mutually, collectively accountable for results for each and every student, right? And until we get there, I worry that we're just going to have more of the same and continue to ill-prepare our young people.